Hello, Divine Light Activators, and welcome back to Season 2 of Own Your Divine Light Show. My name is Janet Miller, and I am here by inviting you to listen to the highly inspired guest that I have and the work that she does, Elizabeth Menzel. Elizabeth is a best-selling author, speaker, and founder of Happy Woman Academy, where she uses systems based in neurobiology and mindfulness to teach women how to feel happy, even after trauma. Motivated by healing her own chronic pain, anxiety, depression, and PTSD, Elizabeth has dedicated her life to helping women overcome the long-term physical and emotional effects of sexism and post-traumatic stress. Her clientele ranges from spiritual women who want to release past pain and feel happier than ever, to some of the most influential people in the world, including multiple billionaire industry moguls, Olympic athletes, international heads of state, and celebrity stars. She travels the globe giving her award-winning workshops and having as much fun as possible while uplifting the state of womanhood on the planet. What a great role, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me, Janet. This is exciting.
I know. It's so thrilling to get to know you. And you have such unique work, Elizabeth, and it truly brings about a deep healing for those who are guided to work with you. I would love for you to share what got you on your journey. You told us a little in your intro and how making healing a career happened in the first place.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I was motivated by pain, both physical and emotional pain. I had a lot of chronic neck tension. I'd been in 3 motorcycle accidents. I've had 9 concussions and more broken bones than I can count. So a lot of physical pain, but also a lot of emotional pain. I come from a broken home, as many people do, and had my father was a real bully and a real misogynist, and so I had a lot of insecurity because of that. You know, I remember saying to my big brother one day, I don't know why Dad hates me so much. And my brother said, he doesn't hate you. You just don't exist.
Ooh, wow.
And it actually felt like a relief because it felt so true. And that has really informed and motivated my work of helping women own their power and really, really feel it, like actually feel it, and live their life from their power and let go of that past pain that holds them back. So I feel like the journey I take women on is the journey that I've been on and that I've mastered. And then with all of my education and neurobiology and an advanced level energy healing, I just really have the skills now to be able to help others to do that. So yeah, it just came from a lot of pain was my motivator. And seeing my mom and my grandmother really suffer, you know, my mom was a single mom that raised us. And then my grandmother had been very traumatized from her mother actually dying young, and she had to raise all the kids. And
oh, wow.
My Nana tripped down the stairs with her daughter in her arms and fell down the stairs and killed her own daughter.
Oh no. Oh my goodness.
So I have this lineage of women that's been extremely traumatized. And a lot of their trauma that was then perpetuated because of not being able to get ahead in society because they were women. So, and from the pressures, you know, the overwhelming pressures that were on them.
Wow.
So.
That's powerful. Yeah. I can see that, you know, and it's so interesting when you say PTSD, because I labeled my own trauma growing up with PTSD too. And I realized that probably 10 years ago, I'm like, I'm actually suffering from PTSD. That's what's wrong here.
Yeah.
And I never even knew that. And then you labeled it. And I said, no, she's the first person who's ever labeled a woman's trauma that I've heard like this in public, PTSD.
Yeah, yeah. So there's, there's post-traumatic stress, which is real, and post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a further complications of post. So whether it's post-traumatic stress or actual post-traumatic stress disorder, there's a lot of crossover there. And for me, it doesn't really matter. I help women overcome the physical and emotional symptoms. So the chronic pain that can come with that, fibromyalgia, chronic tension, as well as really helping women to lift their depression and soothe and calm the anxiety. And so that's why I use, steps that are based in neurobiology, because if you're not doing things in a specific order, it doesn't stick. It doesn't work.
Really?
So,
how interesting.
Yeah. So I send a lot of my clients to a somatic experiencing trauma therapist. And then I help them do the long-term work so that they can live in a whole new way. It's like a deep cleaning, and then I'm the maintenance and further deep cleaning that happens afterwards,
Yeah, go ahead. I don't quite know what somatic therapy is. I've heard of it a lot, but I'm not really as familiar with it as I probably should be, but I'm not, so.
It involves the body. So it involves the body as well as the stuck emotions.
Okay.
So I think it's helpful to know what trauma is. And trauma happens when something happens. It can be good or bad. A lot of people don't realize that it can also be good. People winning the lottery
really
often get traumatized, and they have the same experiences of post-traumatic stress.
Wow.
So the bigger definition is when something happens, you don't get to fully go through an entire stress response back into the relaxation response, meaning you don't get to fight, run away, and use up those stress chemicals that were produced.
Okay, yeah.
And you freeze or faint.
So
everyone says flight or fight, but it's flight, fight, freeze, faint. It's actually 4 things that happen.
Really?
Stress. So if you don't get to fully go through that whole cycle where, like an animal, they run, right? And if they get away, they run until all the stress chemicals are gone.
Wow.
Or they fight until all the stress chemicals are gone. They either lose and get eaten, or they win and get away. And if all the stress chemicals don't get burned off, they shake. It's that shaking that humans keep themselves from doing. We even will say, I feel shaky.
Ooh.
Right? Something bad happens. You almost get in a car accident, but you don't quite. And afterwards, you feel shaky.
Sure. Oh, yeah. That's the trauma. Right. Yeah, that's the shock. Yeah.
Right? So that is the dump of stress chemicals got unloaded into your bloodstream, and you didn't run away or fight. So they're still sitting in there, and then you didn't use them up. Where do they go? They soak back into the soft tissue of your body. That creates fibromyalgia, chronic pain, and illness.
Wow.
And this is the thing. We're going through many of these cycles in just a normal day of living, right? Near-miss traffic accidents, long lines at the bank, right? Dealing with kids. Like, we're constantly getting this stress response that we don't fully burn off or do anything with.
Interesting. Yeah.
And those chemicals soak back in. So the shorter definition of trauma is when something happens that's too much, too soon, or too fast for us to completely handle.
Wow. That's really powerful. I have never heard it put that way. That's powerful information for people to hear.
It is. And the shortest definition of trauma is stuck stress.
That would make so much sense. Yeah. I mean, when kids have anxiety, that's stuck stress, right?
Yeah.
And even if we have anxiety, and also like, I know when I had healing work done, I've always gotten into the shaking part where I'm like releasing,
That's a
shaking.
great release. That's
Yeah.
a
And I'm like, that started when I started getting healings done on me way back and when I first started healing work. And I'm like, what is, and I knew it was releasing, but I didn't think of it in the way you're saying, how perfect with the shaking that we're releasing, because that's an important thing to do.
It's really important. And we often feel shaky, but don't let ourselves shake.
Ah, so
Shake
true.
it out. Shake it off.
Yeah, I think we try to like tough it out so much. Everyone's toughing it out.
Right? We literally make ourselves tight and stiff.
Mm.
And we drive the trauma down into our system. We shove it way down deep inside. Right? And so what often happens, and people don't realize this, and I mean, I have all the data and all the statistics behind this, that what often happens is people say something happened in your childhood. Again, could be cumulative stress, or people think of trauma as big things, but
No,
now you know it can be
cumulative.
cumulative little daily normal stresses
Oh yeah.
build up and create trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So what can happen is people can be super, super functional through their teens, through their 20s, into their 30s.
Mm.
Then they start to get some symptoms like they just don't want to go out anymore.
Ooh, like agoraphobia.
It doesn't have to be that bad, but they,
Okay.
to the point of things that used to be fun for them, they used to go do, maybe they used to go play bingo or go bowling.
Ah,
We don't go out and do them anymore, right? So the system starts to go on lockdown,
yeah. I've
right?
seen that.
Or they can have anger outbursts where they were always super
Mhm.
calm, or all of a sudden they can't sleep anymore.
Hmm. Hmm.
And this is that stress that's been shoved down deep inside starting to come out. It can come out in overthinking, where you just can't turn your brain off,
Hmm.
right? And it just goes and goes and goes, and you have so many thoughts, and it's overwhelming you, and you're laying in bed at night and you can't sleep because you can't turn your brain off, right? So that's a symptom of post-traumatic stress.
That's
You can
incredible.
have a 20, 30-year gap.
Mm. Yeah, I could see that. What about rheumatoid arthritis? Does that have anything to do with that?
So rheumatoid arthritis happens, in the joints.
Yeah.
And in the joints is where, and I know this from my work in neurobiology, in the joints is where a lot of our dysfunction happens, because it's happening in the brain, but where it's expressed is in joint pain.
Really?
So rheumatoid arthritis is a very specific disease.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Osteoarthritis
Yep.
is easier to reverse.
Okay. Yeah. That's the normal one, more normal. Everyone seems to have that one, but the rheumatoid is a real tough one. And a few of my friends have it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it runs in my family too. So I'm hoping to,
Avoid it. Yeah.
yeah,
And you
with all
will.
I do, I have a better chance of not getting it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about things like diabetes and things like that? How does that come up? Is that just, that's not genetic necessarily, is it?
Not necessarily, but we can't overlook
Right,
genetics.
right. Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah.
Gene expression has also been proven where emotions get passed on genetically,
Oh, that
just physicality,
mm.
alcoholism,
Oh, that for sure. Yeah. Yep.
right? So there's all different types of conditions that can get genetically passed. And right, you're an energy healer. As healers, we also can look at that lineage.
Yeah.
Shift in the energy of that lineage and bring healing, right? Because my healing that I do with women is done very much in present time,
Mm-hmm.
but I also do techniques that can go backwards and forwards in time so we can heal an entire lineage so you don't pass on disease.
Interesting. Wow. Is that like family constellation work? Because I've heard of that. Is that the,
I love family constellation work. No, I do this energetically with people.
okay? So it's sort of your own version. Yeah, it's your own.
I know, I learned it at the Barbara Brennan School of Healing.
Oh, that was Barbara Brennan. Okay. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
it's a great technique.
Yeah, it is.
So you asked about diabetes. So, right, there's type 1 and type 2.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a there's a lot of great metabolism work in a book called How to Heal Your Metabolism.
Mm.
And I really highly, highly, highly recommend that, because so much diabetes, thyroid
Oh, yeah.
dysfunction, things that are blamed on hormones
Mm.
are actually because of the way you're eating food and how it's affecting your metabolism.
Really?
So that has a very direct link, a very direct connection.
Mm-hmm.
True, most often a truly one-to-one connection. It is direct.
Wow.
So I do not teach that. I
Right, right. But it's interesting. I mean, you know about enough about it.
yeah.
Yeah. What I'm thinking is, oh, I don't know. I had a thought in my head. Um, it just went out. What was I going to say? It just went out of my head. So I don't want. It'll come back if it's supposed to. But yeah, that's powerful. Oh, I'm thinking about, how everyone's talking about plant-based eating now. People are like going to plant-based a lot, and like certain blood types are supposedly good for like vegetarianism versus meat eaters. Like A's are vegetarians, O's are meat eaters, and the B's are in the middle. They get to do a little of both.
Well, I'll tell you, I was vegan for 13 years. I was vegetarian before that. And then I was dairy free for another 13 years. And I completely destroyed my metabolism.
Really?
And I've had a lot of GI problems because of it.
Oh.
And so now learning a lot of what I thought was healthy, and
Mm.
that I had been taught in the 70s, 80s, and 90s,
Mm-hmm.
is it's been disproven. It's science evolves, and it goes on, and we continue to learn, which is so
Mm-hmm.
great in this age of information. And so the latest research shows that the way you combine your food is the
Mm-hmm.
most important thing, and that you eat many times throughout your day,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like grazing, like the old grazing technique.
but that it's all completely formed so that you have enough fats, proteins, and carbohydrates every time you eat.
Oh, so it's a balance there.
So that one thing is like you don't eat fruit separately.
Ah.
I was always raised that you would never combine fruit with anything else. So I just stopped eating fruit because it made me sick. Every time I ate it, didn't matter what it was. Well, now I know that you combine your foods with your protein and your fats. It helps to break them down.
Ah, because they're a sugar. Fruits are a carb sugar. Yeah, yeah.
Well, but they're the good kind of sugar that
Yeah,
breaks.
they're the good stuff. Yeah.
So it's fascinating. Again, it's not my expertise.
No, but it's interesting that you're talking about it just because I mentioned the plant-based because it's becoming like rampant. All of a sudden, everybody's talking about plant-based.
Yeah, and if we look back, at least through the last, at least since the 50s,
Mhm.
there have been countless diet crazes. And the truth is, it's because people make money off of them.
And what about paleo? Is paleo, that's kind of like paleo. I'm thinking of paleo is like the combination you're saying, although they don't always put fruit in it. They usually do lots of fats and carbs, like potatoes and heavy stuff. You got to go run it off. You're supposed to be a runner or some kind of a high athlete. But anyway, it's not your subject, but it was just interesting. You know a lot about it.
Well, I do. And, I know a lot about it also, not just because of my own pain, which is always the one that leads me into things, but also because when we don't eat right, and this is my expertise, is it creates threat.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Creates a threat. So whether you're eating too much, too little, or the wrong foods for your particular body, that is creating a threat in the brain. Well, when you create a threat in the brain, in the first brain, right, whose job it is to keep you safe,
Uh-huh.
doing
Uh-huh.
its job, brain isn't wrong, it's doing its job. Well, now, if that threat level is up, just because you're not eating the right food for your body, it's pumping stress hormones into
Oh.
your bloodstream.
Hmm.
Right. The system I teach is how to get your brain to switch off the stress chemicals and switch on what I call the happy hormones.
Ah, okay.
So that you can really create a very real change. Because if you're not involving the body
Mm-hmm.
in your mental, emotional healing, it won't stick.
Right. That makes sense.
Right? The brain and the body, it is a direct connection to what is going on with you emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to take the right care of your body, and your baseline, your survival level skills, your survival level needs have to be met for you to pump up to thrive level.
Ah, right, right.
Right? So
Wow.
your food is so important for
Mm-hmm.
that survive level need. Safety, right? Being in safe space,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
hydration,
Yeah.
movement.
Movement. Yes, yes. So true. When I get stuck in the house and I don't get my walks in like I haven't for the last week, I feel, oh, I feel like exactly that. My neighbor and I have been walking because she retired, and we walked every summer for the past summers when she's around. And I can walk without her because she's not always around, but I usually walk at least 2 or 3 times a week. And at least that's like my minimum, you know? And it's just not happening the last week or so. And it's like, I mean, I've been running through airports and things. I mean, if that helps, I am running, I'm going, walking through things like that, but, but
So that's it. You bring up a good point. So running through airports, are you stressed?
oh, totally.
Right.
Running from one end of the terminal to another because your plane had to pull off the runway to get there's something fixed, and then we had like barely 45 minutes when we landed to get from one. I had to get from one terminal to the next, run to catch my plane. Yeah.
Right. So when you learn the system I teach, you will be able to do those things and not dump stress chemicals into your system.
You know, I don't know if I was horribly stressed. I wasn't that bad, which is good because I've gotten used to it. I knew I was close, but when I just kept going, I just said, just don't stop and you'll be okay. And I just kept going. And when I got there, there was the line of people at the very end going down into the terminal, going down the gateway, into the plane. So
Excellent.
I was perfect, and I just didn't stop. Like, I will dilly dally sometimes. So I said, no dilly dallying. You don't have any time. You can't buy any drinks. You've got to go.
That's right. That's right.
So I have to talk to myself.
Well,
Yeah.
good. And that's great awareness, and being kind in your mind is one of the traits of women that heal.
Oh, good.
Yep.
I like
And so that you had that awareness and that you took good care of yourself
I did.
is so super important. And it's so true that often women, we're so used to putting up with such high levels
Mhm.
of stress
Oh, yeah.
that we don't even realize how much it's hurting us.
Mm.
And there's a Wharton School study
Mm-hmm.
that says women's happiness is at an all-time low.
Mm.
That includes before we could vote. That includes before we were allowed to work. That women's happiness is at an all-time low now.
That's unbelievable, isn't it? When
And
we're supposed to be so much advanced. Yeah.
at least 70% of Americans report being traumatized.
Wow. Well, yeah, because I think just living in this daily modern world, we're traumatized by all the bombardment of technology. And then the work environment is so heavy now. And when we got liberated, which I don't think we got liberated at all. I think it was worse because now we have to be super women. You've got to have a job, come home, clean the house, take care of the kids, run them around to their extracurriculars, or figure out how to get them there. And you're just a total stress. You're just a total stress bag.
Yeah.
And so now, I mean, now they've got daycare. I mean, when my kids were coming up, daycare was just coming out. I did not trust it. I felt uncomfortable. There was all kinds of stories going on. And I know there were plenty of good ones, but I didn't know who they were. I just moved into this area, didn't know anybody. So I wasn't giving my baby to anybody I didn't know. And, I had a babysitter, I think, after a year, finally. I did meet a local girl in the neighborhood. She was fabulous, family. There was 3 girls, and they all 3, well, 2 out of 3 took care of my kids.
Right.
Which was great. And, that was like a family I knew and trusted. So, and that's a good thing. But, yeah, it's a different world. And, when women got liberated.
And you know, what's more stressful than trying to keep another little tiny human alive?
Oh my goodness. I know. I have a new grandson, and my son, he cracks me up. He goes, "We're dealing with them. We're dealing with the baby." I'm like, "Oh, you're dealing with," he's great with them. He is. But they're getting used to it. It's just a whole new level in their house that they've never had. And he's a great little baby boy, and he's really a decent baby. He's not a real complainer. He's not a colicky baby. He's none of those things. He's really, really good. But it's a little stress level, getting used to it all. But they're not terribly stressed. They're actually doing much better. The first few days they're exhausted, and the whole thing is new. And then it's now starting to even out. It's 2 months, so they're just starting to get their feet back on the ground.
Yeah, it's very, keeping another human alive is very stressful. It just adds another layer to the regular stresses of everyday living. So knowing what I told you earlier, that it is so cumulative,
Mm.
and that's how the disease gets created in your body, because it's very real. This isn't woo woo or spiritual conjecture. This is how physical bodies work.
Mm-hmm.
That those stress hormones keep getting dumped in, and it's like, imagine battery acid keeps getting dumped into your joints.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh,
Very corrosive.
yeah.
That those stress chemicals are very corrosive. So having a way to release
Mm-hmm.
safely without getting re-traumatized. I think a lot of people
Mm.
don't want to do, they hear about trauma and they shy away from it. They don't want to do it because they're, they don't want to relive it again. They're like, I already went through it once. I don't want to go through it again. And I
Oh.
don't blame them. And a lot of the old trauma therapy that people know about
Mm.
is not used anymore.
Oh,
That's not
good.
effective. So it's not about reliving it. It's not about forcing yourself to go through it. A release of trauma can actually be joyful.
Mm.
It feels, I mean, you think of when you're carrying something heavy and you finally get to set it down on the kitchen counter. You come in with all your groceries and you finally get to set them down, and your arms are just like, oh. That's what it's like when you finally can let go of this trauma that's been bottled up in your system for so long. It's just, oh.
Mm.
So the very maybe temporary shaking or crying or giggling that I teach in my movement. I teach a movement class that allows you to get this trauma out of your bloodstream safely. It's done in these very gentle little ways.
Mm.
Never overwhelms you, doesn't hurt you, doesn't leave you restuck or re-traumatized.
Mm.
None of that happens. So it's really great to be able to talk about it and to be able to let women know, like, no, you don't have to go like wallow in your pain again. No, I want to actually do just the opposite for you and relieve that burden that you've been holding on to for so long. The pain of holding it is way worse than the relief of letting it go.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That makes some, yeah. I've done some of that relief, so I understand what you're saying.
Mm.
It takes a lot though. And to get this work done, the people will allow themselves to let it happen.
Well,
Because,
and that's why, we do it through movement. And so depending on where you are, I said there's a healing spectrum depending on your own needs, right?
Mhm.
So some people have very immediate needs. They're very acutely traumatized right now. They're
Mhm.
in maybe a suicidal situation or a drug dependency situation, and they're very, very acute, right? They need a very specific kind of care.
Mhm.
The type of work I do with people is when they've got that survival level acuteness taken care of,
Mhm.
and they really want to get those final dregs of trauma out of their cells, and they want to long term learn how to feel great.
Mhm.
I say we've been practicing our pain for
Mhm.
a long time.
Oh,
We're
that's good.
really good at it.
Oh, we are. Yeah.
Right? So I teach people how to practice joy, practice
Mhm.
happiness, practice feeling good. And those muscles are often weak.
So true.
Right? So you get to that initial place of stability, you know, where you have a roof over your head, you can get your groceries, you can hold down a job. Now what? Now me.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can take you from that survival to that thrive level in a really safe way that is actually fun.
Mm.
We
I
use
love
our bodies, we move. You can't heal without movement and using your body. And I even work with people who are wheelchair bound or really elderly people, and I let them sit in their chair
mm-hmm.
to do it. It still works,
Interesting.
right? So
Yeah.
um, you've it is much less scary than women think it is, and people.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, the name of your work, Happy Woman Academy, is so like fun and light and joyful. It's like, really? And this is what she's dealing with. But I can see what you're saying, that you don't make people go through the trauma again. And that makes so much sense. That's a really good thing, because yes, old therapy would make you rehash what went on. Talk about it, get it out, you know.
It's
It's like,
re-traumatizing. It drives it in deeper.
I never
So I'm so grateful to Dr. Peter Levine and his work with trauma therapy. He has, 45 years of clinical research and data. And I'm just so grateful for him and his work. It's really, um, he has pioneered for the entire future of psychotherapy. And therapists are realizing that the majority of psychological problems come from trauma.
Yeah.
And they see the connection, they understand the neurobiology of it now. It is all documented. There's nothing you need to believe. There's no hearsay. It is how we actually function. And when we know how we function on the inside and we can take the reins back into our own hands, then we change how we function on the outside. Then we change how we interact. Then we can have better and better romantic relationships. We can invite more positive happenings into our life. But when we're stuck in these cycles of pain, where what we received in the past was dangerous, we block our receiving channels.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Don't let the good in either, right? We're trying to protect ourselves to keep the bad out. Totally understandable.
Oh, yeah.
But a blocked tube is a blocked tube. It's not letting anything in. So it's not letting the good enter us either. So when you can calm your nervous system on purpose, feel that true grounded, centered place, you can safely open your receiving channels, and then you can discern what you want to let in. It becomes conscious instead of this unconscious cycle of blocking the good with the bad.
Wow.
Yeah. So then you get to open up now. Oh, now you can start letting more money in. Oh, now more positive relationships come to you and people come into your life.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So now the good starts flowing because you've unblocked that receiving channel.
Wow.
And you get to say no too, right? I teach people how to set boundaries with love instead of fear.
Yeah, I remember hearing, no is a real word. No is a complete sentence. That was the thing we learned. What was that, like in the 80s or 90s? No is a complete sentence started coming out, because I remember reading a book, Women Who Do Too Much.
Yes.
And that is a famous book, right? And it's all codependency and things like that. And
Are you thinking of Women Who Love Too Much?
That's it. Women Who Love Too Much.
Yeah.
That was a powerful book to read. And
Very
I'm like,
powerful.
oh yeah.
Very powerful, right? And so it's about that healthy love, right? You get to say yes and you get to say no. In the trauma situation that hurt you, you didn't get to say no.
Correct. Yeah.
And you didn't give your consent to say yes.
Wow. And we don't even know we have that right to say it because no one gives you the right. And you don't even realize you're allowed to have that right. It's
Right? You don't even realize how it was taken away. And then we live in a patriarchal society that perpetuates it
mm,
and keeps taking it away.
correct, correct.
So,
Yeah. And this is why women look at things and they're like, oh, I wouldn't have even thought of that because they don't look at that as applying to them.
right.
We're almost like invisible, like that invisible society, even though they talk about different things that we're breaking through that. Well, the Me movement right now, the Me Too movement is bringing attention to women, thank God, in a good way, it's bringing, not that it's bringing out the good stuff, it's bringing out the tough stuff, but people are being listened to. And that's the important part.
And it's huge. I've had a huge process myself with the Me Too movement. I wrote about it a couple of years ago. An article of mine went viral about um, the connection between sexism and PTSD that the Me Too movement exposed.
Oh, it has to be enormous. It's
Yeah.
just, it's rampant. I mean, there's nothing else that could be more rampant than that right there.
It's huge. I mean,
Yep.
racism is right up there.
And what?
Racism is right up there.
Oh yeah, yeah, because we all live with it and we just accept it because we think it's part of normal life. But
It's just,
I mean,
and you said something, you just said something about, oh gosh, but about women not being silent anymore.
right. I said they were silent. We were like invisible, and now
Right.
we're starting to speak out, and we're being heard. It's one thing to speak out, but then the other part is to be heard.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so, even within myself, even though I've been a public speaker for years and I go all over the world speaking and teaching, my trauma around my own sexism and misogynist father and rape and getting fired because I wouldn't sleep with my boss and
Right.
like
it's ridiculous.
all of that was still very hard for me to pinpoint and speak about. Because what happens is it all gets internalized, right? And this is when you asked me like why I became a healer at the beginning, like this is all part of it. It gets internalized where we believe that we're wrong and bad.
Exactly.
We're not worthy, that we're not good enough, that we,
Yes.
right? And that gets reinforced by the sexist messages we're bombarded with every day in our society, right? So we subconsciously and automatically believe these things. And I've been in a 2-year process since then of coming out more and more and talking about that internalized sexism and the way that within each woman we keep sexism alive because we've internalized it and we're beating ourselves up.
We do. We are our own batterers sometimes. We really are. And I understand that. I do. I can see so many of us doing it constantly.
Yeah.
Taking it on and just the man doesn't have to say a word. We can just do it to ourselves. Just
right. And so what I see, you said about, when we were liberated, but we're not liberated, we're not.
No.
We are in the process of liberation. I don't know if you saw the post I put up just yesterday, but it was about when a Tibetan Lama used to live in a monastery, and when he gave me a name, he gave me a name, and the translation of the name is Diligent Liberatress.
Ah, I love that.
And I really took that on as my identity and my mantle of liberating women. And
yourself.
Myself first. Yeah.
Right.
And it took me, oh gosh, from then, I mean, it was years before I made the Happy Woman Academy. Gosh, it was probably 8 years before I, so I really went through a deep process in myself. But then, right, healing happens in layers. So in the last couple of years, finding my own voice with that and being able to speak it. And I just recently, I won't go into the details, but I sent a letter about someone who had assaulted me, and I knew he had assaulted other women.
Okay.
A long time ago. And there's such a fear to speaking up that I don't judge anyone for not speaking up.
Oh, I understand.
The fear of retribution is so strong.
Yes.
So strong that even that this person, this abuser lives in another country.
Mm.
But my fear of reporting him was so strong. I feared that I wasn't going to be believed
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that somehow it would get back to him and he would harm me.
Mm. Well, they have power. Men have a lot of power, and that's why the reach is far, and that's why women don't say things. Most of the reason is that right there.
Yeah,
That's most of the control.
it is. And so I finally felt strong enough
Mm-hmm.
within myself and
Wonderful.
safe enough
Mm.
within myself that I could blow the whistle.
Good.
And what else motivated me was I just didn't want it to happen to anyone else.
And I think that's the next motivation for I think that if women look at that, that motivation alone would allow you to have the courage. You know, besides, I know the retribution is scary,
But
but
you
you've got to look
put
both
yourself
ways.
in danger. Like that's real. That's why it's like I don't blame anyone for not speaking
And
up.
you can't,
It
no, you can't.
really might be too dangerous. It really might be.
Oh, true. It's so true.
So no judgment. It's just it was okay for me.
Perfect. Oh, I'm so
That
happy.
took a long time, you know?
Yeah.
That took a long time. So
Mhm.
even though I've done huge chunks of healing and I have no more chronic pain anymore,
Ah.
there's so much, my libido is back, like so
Mhm.
much has healed in me. And there's always more to do, you know, there's always another layer of us claiming our own power.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I feel reinvigorated and excited again to
Mhm.
get out there and to speak. I'm not scared anymore to speak. I mean, I just did it with you without crying, right?
I
Like,
know. I love it. I love it. That was, thank you for sharing that here because, yeah, it's so powerful. And, you know, like that's a form of PTSD that you just released because you're holding that trauma in as well
because
because
of
of
that
that.
stress is that you literally can't open your throat to do it.
Right.
Right. So a
Right.
one of the symptoms of post-traumatic stress is not being able to speak up for yourself
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't safe. It could have cost you your life. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're safe, that's stuck in there, that choking feeling that so many women have.
Mm.
Even once they get safe, that's what I can help you safely release
Mm. Wow.
without re-traumatizing.
Which is wonderful. Does that connect with thyroid? Does that connect with your thyroid problems too? That makes that would that's where I got that connection as soon as you said that. I'm like, well, that makes sense with thyroid problems. Totally. I can think of my own things that, and I have, you know, I have low thyroid, so I know that that's been for years, and I understand where it all came from. I mean, I knew it, but now you're making the more connection, the physical connection.
Well, you're doing a great job of speaking out right now, lady.
And so are you. It's, and this is what I, you know, this is for all the women, and you know, and it's not, we're not against men, and we're not, you know, but men understand. I mean, the men that are, you know, liberated and understand the women and where we're coming from, they understand this. You know, they're not going to take offense. It's the men that are the ones that are the perpetrators that might take the offense. It's not the other men. It's the perpetrators that will.
Well, and
So
there's tons of good men, and I think
yeah, there are.
phase of liberation is that it is to get to the place where it isn't about men and women, it is about masculine and feminine energy. So that's another area of my expertise. And that's where I think the next really deep layer of women and men healing the problem between the sexes is when we surpass that it isn't about men and women. It's
Mm.
really about the masculine and feminine within us. Because all of the qualities of the feminine,
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
women, the feminine energy are seen as less than. Nurturance,
Mm-hmm.
play, abundance, flow, rest, right?
Beauty, even
All of
beauty.
these qualities are seen as less than. Wisdom is seen as less important than knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Being is seen as less important than doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So we live in a patriarchal society that gives higher prominence and value to masculine energy,
Mm-hmm.
how it got it got presented on the earth plane was men, right? And so decades before us, the work was men embracing their feminine, but now the work is women embracing their feminine, and not the not the unhealthy masculine energy, but the healthy versions of both.
Yeah.
So that is very dynamic, powerful work that I love getting into with my sisters in the Happy Woman Academy. It's very deep, and we really dissect how that plays out in your life, how that pushing yourself too hard, you know, believing that you're only valuable because of your work or what you got done today or what you accomplished.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, that's really how I see things in my family. It's valued only by what, you know, you've produced, kind of. Sometimes I see that. It's like, really? This isn't the only thing. This isn't all there is. And, you know, but that's the one that really makes the difference. Yeah. That's the one that shows up.
One of the last times I talked to my father was nearly 20 years ago. And he said, so how are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm really happy, and I'm really involved in my healing work, and I'm doing volunteer work with women and women's shelter. And he's like, how are you doing? And I said, well, I mean, and I just kept going on about how I felt.
Oh, okay.
How great my healing work was.
Yeah.
He meant, how much money are you making?
Oh, dear. I didn't even get that. Well, really, I wasn't getting it.
Just functioning, right? And it just showed like what was valuable to me.
Yeah.
Was my joy, my nurturance, my fulfillment with my work, right? Who I got to help, like, and
that was what he wanted. He wasn't interested. Yeah.
Just did not even care at all. Are you making money or not? Right. And when I said that I was volunteering, he was disgusted.
Right. It's sad. Well, that was 20 years ago, so maybe he'll look at it differently now, but I don't know if he's still around, but he may not be.
I've set that boundary firmly.
Yeah, I could understand that. Yeah, totally.
Second to the last conversation ever. So.
Well, you know, you have to take care of yourself, and that's, you know, we all have to do that. I mean, sometimes you can heal it, but you don't have to invite it to dinner, right? You don't have to have them to dinner.
Well, sometimes part of the healing is saying no.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was the peacekeeper.
Oh, yeah.
I was the mediator. So
yep. Me too.
My family would always just shove me back with my abuser. And so the last time it happened was, I don't know, 15, 17 years ago or something. I have no sense of time. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Over a decade ago was the last time. And I was just like, I'm never doing this again.
Yes, yes.
That's it. I am ending this particular cycle of pain.
You know, that's so interesting, because I remember when I was married, living all over the world with my husband, and I come home to visit my family, and my brother said to me, oh, tell mom she's blah, blah, blah. Tell her this is going on and you need to tell her. I'm like, what do you mean I need to tell her? I don't even live here anymore. I'm way out of this picture. You want to tell her, you tell her. And that's when I drew my line, because I had the same role as you. You're the one who can go in there and open your mouth and say something. You're the brave one. Go in and do it. No more. Done. Now you be your own mouthpiece. You do your own talking. You need something.
Yeah. And, you know, I think with a lot of healers, and again, I've given nearly 400 workshops. I've helped thousands of people. I've been doing this for 25 years. So I've been at it a long time, and you get to see patterns, right? When you do something for such a long time. And so what I've seen with other healers is that they were often the peacekeepers in their family and simultaneously the black sheep.
Always, always. That's exactly it. I think you could probably put us all in that category, right?
It's pretty wild.
That's pretty much who we are.
Pretty wild, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's true. You're right. It's definitely who we are. Yeah, because that's everyone I know that's in it had the same thing. It's
Isn't
true.
that funny? Yeah, it's a common pattern, right? It's a common pattern.
Because you're talking and I'm going, oh boy, can I identify with her with all these things she's saying? you know, whatever it is, but we've all learned and gained from it, and look at where we are. You know what? We grew despite all of that, which
Yeah.
I think is a triumph in itself.
It is. It does show. It's so funny. I often think of it, and I still do my physical work with people too. I do neuromuscular therapy, and I do a Z Health, a system for pain relief based in neurobiology and changing brain function, directly changing brain function.
Mm,
So I'm still working with people who just come to me for traumatic injury as well,
mm.
and athletes, and you know, work with the big sports teams here in Pittsburgh.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
oh shoot, I lost my train of thought.
You're
So
talking about like you work with the women with traumatic brain injuries, you work with people,
traumatic physical injuries, but I shift the pain in the brain. Um,
that's what it was, yeah.
yeah, but there was a point. Uh, patterns.
Maybe it wasn't important. Well, I think what you've given us is so amazing. And, you know, so a quick question, what messages do you have for our audience in 2019? What do you see that we need to know, men and women, or just women, whatever you want to tell us?
Um, that they're not alone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That all of us have been through hard times.
Mm-hmm.
All of us have some form of trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and all of us can heal. We really can. Our system is amazing. We were made to be able to heal.
Mm.
I remember what I was going to say. So,
Yay.
because I work so much with physical pain as well, I see how fragile we are, and I see how resilient we are, and
Mm-hmm.
how amazingly we can heal.
Mm-hmm.
It's profound. I mean, I've taken people who have been told like they've had surgery and they're like, you're never going to be able to move your head again. And within weeks, I have them in full range of motion. You know,
Yeah.
like we are so fragile and we are so resilient.
Mm-hmm.
And real healing, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, it all goes together. You can't do one without the other.
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is totally possible. Whether you feel possible or not, it is. You just need to be willing and kind in your mind, move your body, and stay consistent with that love to yourself. And don't shortchange yourself of support.
Mm.
It can be just too hard to go it alone. Just too hard. You don't have the energy. I still have my healers,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm still in my women's circle
Yeah.
last night. So we can't see ourselves, and we can't uplift our own energy all alone in those areas where we chronically dip.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our own patterns. So allow yourself really, really, really good, excellent care. You know, you, Janet, are presenting people with so many options for great care. And we deserve to take advantage of that. All
Yeah.
of them.
And yes, I mean, everything you said is so perfect. And I hope, you know, people listening who are saying, oh, well, you know, it's not going to work for me, or I just don't have the time, or I don't have the money, or whatever, you know.
I'll tell you, the system I teach, you can do in seconds. Seconds.
That's a good point right there.
We it's very, very easy to learn, and we just get better at it with practice, but it
Mhm.
only takes seconds to do. So
I can tell you, yeah, you told me a little neck thing to do, and I've been doing it whenever I can think of it. And I will tell you, it has made a difference. It doesn't hurt as much as it was.
that's great to
So
hear.
I'm just giving that feedback because you gave me a really good little exercise, because from being at my island, which I wasn't, it's kind
Yeah.
of only been around for 4 years. I sit there and I read, and my neck was hurting, and I was getting this like humpy look a little because I was all hunching a bit. And that just happened in the past few years. And everyone's like, why are you hunching over? And I'm like, am I? And it's all because of the island, sitting there and reading or looking at your phone. And I'm like, I can't sit there all the time anymore because it's hurting me to sit there. And when you said, oh, I know what to tell you, I've been doing it because I've forgotten the last few days again. But when I think of it and I do it, everything is clear again. And I'm like, there's nothing hurts. And it's not, it's not, so I can tell you, everyone who's listening, that it does work. Even these, and it took me less than 3 minutes to do these exercises. I mean, it was so, even maybe a minute, maybe a whole minute. It was that quick.
Very quick. So you can do it wherever you are. And, I
Mm-hmm.
do 5 steps and you can do them wherever you are. It's very easy. And it's how we're made. It's how we're
Yeah.
made.
Yeah.
How we're made to actually feel in our power. We can get right back there. I've got the roadmap for you. It's very
simple. It's so great. And that's so important for us to know. We all think that it's hopeless. You go to doctors, like you say, and they tell you this isn't going to happen, that isn't, but you cannot believe that, because I think it's your own free will and it's your own mindset. It creates, your cells listen to you. Really, because we are God. I mean, we are the creator. And when your cells are speaking and you're hearing the doctor say, you can't do that, and you go, oh, I so believe that. Well, your cells are going to go, okay, this is what she wants. But if you say, well, oh, no, this isn't I'm not accepting that. I'm going forward and I'm going to change this. That is when you're going to find somebody. And there you are. You're right here. There's one person right here. Elizabeth is here to help us. And, those people get the help, like that person that could move her neck.
Yeah.
And how many people have you heard that they've told you can't walk? I mean, this is years ago, and they're all walking, and people are walking and doing things that weren't ever expected. Or if you're in a coma, you'll never wake up, but they do.
I remember this like it was yesterday. I was 4 years old. My mom answered the door. A friend of hers was there. She was very upset because a friend of hers had had a traumatic brain injury.
Okay.
So she was told like she's never going to recover.
Mm.
So this woman was crying and upset. My mom was holding her. And when she calmed down a little bit, I was standing there the whole time. I looked up at her and I said, it's not true. Your friend's going to be okay.
Oh, wow.
And she just looked at me and I said, brains can heal.
You knew that at 4 years old. That gives me chills. That's incredible.
No prior anything. I was
Wow.
family. I did not have any other information going on. But there was a direct knowing in me that neuroplasticity is real.
Mm.
Right? True depression can be alleviated.
Isn't that amazing? See, these things, anything is possible. There are no limits. There really are no limits for us. Our human body is limitless. We put the limits on it with the parameters that society places on us and all that. But I know time is moving. So we've been talking and it's been so powerful. It just flew. It flew, Elizabeth. I feel like we just started it. We just touched on different things, but that message was wonderful. Thank you so much. And I know you have a gift for our listeners.
I do.
Yep. And I know I have, let's see, I think I have it here. I thought I had, yeah, I have it here. Yeah, download. Oh, yeah, there it is. Supercharge your health 5. Fabulous. Plus, a heal for real call. Go ahead, you tell them.
TheHappyWomanAcademy.com. It's the Happy Woman Academy.
Right. The Happy Woman Academy.
Right. The Happy Woman. They can download a digital copy of this book. It's fantastic. It's a workshop in a book, so it's a workbook. It's a best on Amazon, but they can get it right there, instant download. And if you want to talk to me, I offer a Heal for Real call. I can do a few of them a month, and there's no charge.
Really?
And I will take you through a process that gets you clear about the best next step on your healing path, because there is so much. We're bombarded with so many ads a day, and it's so confusing. I don't sell on this call. I actually just help you get clear and direct you to the best healing thing for you. Sometimes it's me, but maybe 50% of the time or less, it's me. Usually people need something else, and I can pinpoint exactly what they need right now that's going to help them and move them forward in the way that's right for them.
Wow, that's a powerful, wonderful gift. So anyone, a Heal for Real call, which is just a phone call to talk about what's going on in your life. And Elizabeth will just give her best advice, because obviously you can see how well informed she is and the wisdom that she has to show us and to share with us.
Yeah, I take you through a very specific process on that call. It's very clarifying.
Mm.
Great.
Ooh. Well, I love that idea myself. You know, we're always healers got to have healing too. We've all got to keep going.
Yeah.
We all need it. So that is so powerful. So thank you for that, Elizabeth. What a great gift. Thank you so much. And I'm going to thank our listeners for tuning in, and please write us your comments. You know, we love to hear what you have to say, how you like the show. I mean, what we heard today was amazing information, Elizabeth. So perfect about the trauma and different things going on that people probably don't even think of it that way. You've just given us a whole new way of looking at these things, which I found is just so enlightening, really enlightening work and that you're doing. And so please give us your comments, and I have answered all my emails in the season 1. So we're in season 2 now. So please write, I will answer them as many as I can personally. I did them all last time, so we'll see where this one goes, and I would love to. And Elizabeth, if you want to write to Elizabeth, I know she'd be able to get back to you. So she's saying yes. So Elizabeth, thank you. You are an amazing channel of healing light, and you've brought so much release and freedom to women that work with you and to anyone that has blessed with your work. And you know, you've helped them unlock their passions, ignite their authenticities, and finally create the lives they love. And I'm sure they are all singing your praises and telling the world about you, because you need to come and see Elizabeth. If you have something going on that you've never known what you want to do, I think we've found the person that can help you here. So thank you again. And I'm Janet Miller, and I will see you on the next episode.